Fill her up.
You're listening to the Gas Digital Network.
Good afternoon, Michael Malice here. Let that be your welcome for the next hour. I am really excited with today's guest. We have with us Laura Loomer, possible next Congresswoman from Florida's 21st District, conservative activist, controversialist, and current Republican nominee. So welcome to the show, Laura. Welcome back.
Thanks so much for having me, Michael. Good to see you again.
So let's break down this campaign, because this is something that I think shocked a lot of people. You announced you're running for Florida. First of all, what is your relationship to the 21st District in Florida?
Well, I live in Florida's 21st Congressional District. I've lived here for about 3 years, despite fake news media reports that say that I'm a carpetbagger and that I've never lived in Florida before. I actually went to college in Miami, Florida, which is just south of my district, and that's where I was the president of College Republicans at Barry University, where I majored in broadcast journalism and minored in political science. And it was at Barry University where I was president of College Republicans, and I also got my career started. I met James O'Keefe, and I started doing undercover work while I was a junior and senior in college. And then I ultimately got expelled from college my senior year, even though I was set to be valedictorian. So I guess you could say the first place I was ever banned from is my own alma mater, for doing an expose on my university that showed them expressing their willingness to allow me to have an ISIS club. They had been in opposition to the College Republican Club, so I thought, well, I bet you they'd let me have, an ISIS club if they're not going to let me have my Republican events. And I was not wrong about that one. And instead of reprimanding the professors, they kicked me out. And then I moved to New York, in Westchester, where I was living for 3 years, working for James O'Keefe. And then I moved back to Florida, and I've been residing in Palm Beach ever since. So in total, I've lived in Florida for about 7 years.
Let's talk about your bannings. So you have a history of being kicked off of, let's see if I got them all right as of last call. Very famously Twitter.
Yes.
Lyft and Uber,
yeah.
YouTube, Christian Mingle for some reason. Where are you currently banned from, and where have you been banned in the past?
Well, you forgot the most important one, right? Uber Eats. I'm not even allowed to order food delivery, okay? They want me to starve. I mean, how awful. I can't even order a sandwich, Michael. So I'm banned from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Uber, Lyft, Uber Eats. I said PayPal, right? Venmo, GoFundMe, Cash App. I'm banned from Medium, Teespring, Periscope.
What's Teespring? I don't even know what that one is.
Teespring is a site that allows you to make custom T-shirts. So when I was doing my investigative journalism and my activism, everybody loved Loomer and getting Loomer. And so I used to sell Loomer T-shirts and mugs, and then they banned me because they said that they have a contract with PayPal, and PayPal told them that they would their contract with them as a company if they didn't terminate me and ban me. So it's just bully tactics. And then I have a WordPress site, and I'm banned from Word Ads too, because Word Ads has their contract with PayPal. So I couldn't even monetize my own website. So when people say, "Oh, you don't need social media, you could just have your own website," well, actually no, because if you want to monetize, all of these companies are so intertwined with each other that the bans end up immobilizing you, even if you are completely independent. And so when I was permanently banned everywhere, officially becoming the most banned woman in the world and labeled as a terrorist by Facebook, they literally labeled me a terrorist, and they let ISIS and Antifa have accounts. I decided that I didn't want what happened to me to happen to any other American, because we're seeing that big tech tyranny and, complete control over what people get to see and hear, and the content and the information that they are presented on a daily basis. That's all being moderated and controlled by several left-leaning, communist billionaires in Silicon Valley. And now they make up 1/5 of our economy. So I really do view censorship as the biggest threat to our country and the most important, campaign issue this election cycle. And we're already seeing it play out with COVID and the lockdowns and how, all of our elected officials are telling us to stay inside and social distance, and we have to consume our information online. Well, what happens if you're banned, right? We saw what happens in the middle of a pandemic when you're forced to stay in your house, or else you're threatened with arrest, right? In some places, they were threatening to arrest you if you left your home, right? They mandate that you stay inside and you have a curfew. Well, if they're delivering this only on social media and you don't have access to social media because you're banned, should you, deserve to go to jail and be arrested because you didn't have access to information? They just assume that people can afford a TV or that they can afford cable, and that they're going to be able to get their information on a TV. But cable is very expensive, and right now, where people are losing their jobs, they're unemployed. Not everyone can afford, cable, and so a lot of people, they have their cell phone, and with their cellular data, they're able to access the internet, and they have social media. So we're dealing now with a civil rights crisis where a certain segment of society is being disenfranchised and denied equal access to information. They're being denied equal access to the political process, in my case, and we've seen in the case of President Trump, simply because they're conservative. And the tyrants in Silicon Valley don't want conservatives to be able to thrive. An example, when I filed to run for Congress a little over a year ago on August 2nd, 2019, people laughed on the left and the right, and they said, oh, Laura's just running for Congress to get her Twitter account back, okay? The policy with Twitter prior to me running for Congress was that if you are a candidate for Congress, you can get a verified account, because they had this policy where it said, for the sake of election integrity and transparency, we're going to indicate who's running for office, and we're going to give them a verified account so that we can't, there aren't any people trying to replicate or parody candidates running for office, because that's an issue.
Yeah, because you see a lot of times people have 500 followers, but they're the libertarian candidate for Nebraska, and Twitter has them as verified, so people don't understand that's their policy. How many followers did you have when you were banned from Twitter?
So I had 265,000, but I had a lot more than that because, as we all know, Twitter does purges. And so I was definitely the victim of several large-scale purges where it was probably 50,000 or more. So I would say that I probably had about 500,000 followers at the time of my ban. But the follower count isn't really what mattered. What mattered is the impressions. The reason why I was banned is because I was effective, not because I'm a hater, not because I'm a bigot, not because I'm a racist, because I'm neither of those things. I was banned because my account was getting over 150 million views a month. Okay, that's more views than CNN and MSNBC's monthly broadcast combined. So I, as one single individual, as a I was then 25 years old, a 25-year-old girl, I had more relevance and more impact, and I guess more journalistic authority than CNN and MSNBC combined. And I wasn't being bankrolled by any millionaires or billionaires. I was simply, raising my own money, and I was using my cell phone, as I notoriously did, to Loomer people. And I built an audience and was able to break stories long before the mainstream media did. And they tried to ruin my life for it. I was banned from Twitter for a tweet where I said Ilhan Omar is anti-Jewish and pro-Sharia and pro-FGM, okay? I remember in 2018, because you were following my exploits in Minneapolis, and I had told you, I said, Michael, you have to have me on your show. There's this woman in Minneapolis who married her brother. And you said, come on, Laura, that sounds absurd. She married her brother, give me a break. And nobody would take it seriously. And I was trying to warn people about this woman who nobody knew about. And I said, she is going to win. This district, they're doing ballot harvesting with Somalis. People said that was a conspiracy theory, but long and behold, Project Veritas just proved it the other day in their bombshell expose. And then I was labeled anti-Muslim by the media because I was ahead of the curve. Right? So I was punished for being a good investigative journalist. Then they put my photo at the top of Twitter when they banned me and said I was a white supremacist. And that's why, people think that I'm some neo-Nazi white supremacist and that I committed hate speech. But what they don't realize is that when Republicans fall for this nonsense known as hate speech, they're just showing that they And Democrats too, right? It's not just Republicans, but it especially annoys me when I see members of my own party saying, oh, well, she's banned for hate speech. There's no legal definition of hate speech in this country, okay? So you're just falling for leftist propaganda, which is being used as a tool to commit election interference and to spew leftist propaganda and silence political dissent. And the Supreme Court has already decided there's no such thing as hate speech. So I would love to know what exactly I was guilty of doing besides, being too smart for my own good.
Well, they say hate speech is speech that you hate. So that's the definition, I think, in many of these contexts. But let's talk about Ilhan Omar. I'm sure you followed up with her recently and what's been going on with her in her life. Are you gratified? She broke up a marriage, supposedly. She's shacking up with this dude who I think is Jewish as well.
Yeah, can I just say something? Like, the thing I find to be so alarming and hypocritical about Ilhan Omar is she and her crew, the squad, they love to talk about, defunding the police and defunding ICE for breaking up families. Ilhan Omar has single-handedly broken up more American families than any ICE agent I've ever met.
But aren't you relieved that instead of her being closet jihadi, she's a closet hoe?
Yeah, well, I think that Ilhan Omar is the only person in the world that would get me to wish that we had Sharia trials here in America so she could stand trial for her crimes. We all know what the punishment for adultery is under Sharia is, right?
I do not know. I'm not up on Sharia. I'm sorry. I study Talmud.
Well, I guess it's a good thing. I guess it's a really good thing that we don't have Sharia law here. You should look it up.
I think it is. I'll do it.
I'm not going to give Media Matters an opportunity to slice and dice my educational moment here. So you can go look up what the punishment for adultery is later under Sharia law.
Okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the relationship between you and the Republican Party. Was there any pushback from the party establishment when you were running in this primary? And has that changed now that you're the official nominee?
Well, look, there's, like I said, people on the left and the right mocked me when I said I was running for Congress, and they said there's no way in hell that Laura Loomer can win, because what's happened in our society is that social media has become like a qualifier or a benchmark for whether you can succeed in anything in your life. And so people are so addicted to social media, and they live in this alternate universe that really is totally separate from the real world. And now, as a member of the real world, given that I'm banned and I have no social media, I see that, like most people are not on Twitter and they're not on Facebook. A lot of people, or when I say that, they use it, but they don't use it to the extent that I necessarily thought they used it. Right? It's still used for communication, but there's so many people in political Twitter world that get so caught up and they think that everybody knows who they are, and that's just not the case. And so I was told that it was impossible for me to win my election while being banned. And then I was also told that no one would vote for me and that I would never be able to raise any money because I was banned and because of the way people have branded me as an Islamophobe and a white supremacist, even though I'm Jewish, right? I don't know how that works. And so I proved them wrong, because that's what I do. I prove people wrong, and I've dedicated myself to accomplishing the impossible. And I not only raised more than a dime, right? The local politics papers here, political papers, they said, oh, she won't even raise a dime. Well, I outraised, at the time, 7 other Republican opponents combined, including my radical Democrat opponent, Lois Franklin. So I outraised 8 candidates combined, including the 4-term sitting Democrat incumbent. And I did that all 4 quarters in a row from the moment I filed to run for Congress to the moment I won my primary. And it was a 6-way primary. And so while having no social media, having the press print lies about me in the newspaper every day, accusing me of being a Nazi and saying that I was, not deserving to have a voice because I'm banned on social media, I won my primary in double digits. I won about 45% of the vote and beat 5 other candidates on election day. And so I'm going to win in November too. And it's not about me getting my Twitter account back, because I haven't received my Twitter account back. In fact, the day that I filed to run for Congress, literally one day after, Twitter changed their policy. So I have successfully managed to get 2 of the most powerful tech companies in the world to change their terms of service regarding advertising and, political candidates in response to my campaign, because they're so afraid of me getting to Congress.
I can't wrap my head around how it's not a violation of some law. And I
It
say
is a
this.
violation, but no one's doing anything about it. No
Okay,
one's doing
hold
anything.
on. Let me get the question out. And I say this as an anarchist, but like Republican and Democratic parties are pretty enshrined in law, or largely as the two establishment big parties. Like virtually everyone in Congress, other than Angus King and Bernie Sanders, are members of the Republican or Democratic Party. Maybe there's one, Justin Amash, I'm sorry, in the House. So how is it that what is the system where if you are the official, certified nominee for the Republican Party, and who has raised millions of dollars, it's not like you're someone in a basement, how is it that your campaign does not have access to social media?
Okay,
I don't understand
so let me finish explaining the rules. So when I filed to run for Congress, right, Twitter then the very next day changed their candidate rules. So before it was, okay, if you file to run, you get a verified account. When I filed to run, my announcement was the #1 trend on Twitter for 72 hours straight, because everybody was like, oh my God, Laura Loomer's running for Congress. This is going to be great.
Yeah.
And then the very next day, Twitter changed their rules to say you have to win your primary. So then all these radical progressive candidates, like the Justice Democrats, the AOC types, they got pissed off because they're trying to primary Democrats, right? So they said, well, that's not fair for us. That gives the incumbent an advantage. So then Twitter said, okay, well, every single candidate running for office gets a verified account. And then Breitbart and Gateway Pundit reached out and they were like, what about Laura Loomer? And they said literally, this is their policy. Every single candidate running for office gets a verified account except Laura Loomer.
Wait, literally has your name?
Well, they wouldn't put it in publication, but that's the statement that they gave. I believe Cassandra Fairbanks from Gateway Pundit was the one to break the story, and then Alan Bakari over at Breitbart did a follow-up.
Yeah.
But yeah, they literally told these people, Laura Loomer will not be getting her account back, and they haven't done that to any other candidate. So then Facebook also, when I said to myself, okay, I'm going to try to create a Facebook page. So the campaign tried creating a Facebook page for, Laura Loomer for Congress. It wasn't a personal page, right? Because my page was already banned, and my Instagram too. And then when the page was created, less than 24 hours later, it was deleted. And then when Facebook was asked about it, they said Laura Loomer is not allowed to have an account. Even if she wins her race, we will not be giving her an account back. So I won Mary, and then another thing that happened primary victory is when people tried running ads for me, Facebook banned them. So Facebook also created a policy that said not only is Laura Loomer not allowed to have a Facebook page for her campaign, but she's also not allowed to run ads, and people aren't allowed to run ads with her name in them. So they want to just completely act like I don't exist. And when they're censoring me, they're actually censoring the voters of District 21 who want to vote for me. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of people who are voting for me, and I'm going to win. I'm going to unseat this woman, this radical Democrat, lazy Lois Franklin, on November 3rd. You could take it to the bank. So we have been discriminated against. This is a violation of election law. PayPal also won't let my campaign raise money. Every other candidate is able to raise money on PayPal besides me, of course, because there's a separate set of rules for Laura Loomer. And no one's done anything about it. I've asked the party to get involved. And when I won my primary, a couple people, that was the first thing everyone wanted to know is, oh, is Laura getting her account back? And Twitter and Facebook were on standby, because the first story that came out after I won my race was a Politico report that said, oh, Twitter and Facebook, and then the Washington Examiner, I think, did the same thing. Twitter and Facebook say that Laura Loomer will not be getting her accounts back. So I am the official Republican nominee in District 21, which is President Trump's home district. Okay, President Trump will be voting for me, and I don't have an account. I don't have an ability to use Twitter, Facebook, or PayPal to communicate with voters, or Instagram, which people are using to run ads.
I still am having trouble understanding how either the GOP or the Trump campaign or someone isn't pitching a fit, and here's why. This is much bigger than you.
Yeah.
Laura Loomer,
it's not just about me; it's about everyone. Right. They're doing it to Trump too.
If you're going to in the future, if you're in the future are going to feel comfortable not letting one of two candidates in a district have access to your platform, this is enormous impact on the election.
Well, think about this, Michael. So the newspapers here, the Palm Beach Post, they literally ran an article that said, Laura Loomer is banned on all social media, but she's running for Congress. So, the qualifier. So just imagine a world where people think that you're not allowed to run for office or even have a job or do anything. Like, get a position because you're banned. Ooh, she's banned. Ooh, we're not gonna hire her, right? We're not gonna let her do this. We're not gonna let her do that. We're not gonna give her an account. Facebook and Twitter can just go ban every single Republican in the world and then say, okay, well, they're not qualified to run for Congress because they're banned. Social media is becoming a qualifier and something that you have to have if you want to succeed in the world. Everything is going digital. We saw that with coronavirus. So what's going to stop them from banning every other Republican in the middle of their race? And then the story is going to be, oh, they're just banned, so vote for this other person, because they're able to create this villain complex around you if you're banned. People they think that I'm some evil person. They think that I'm a monster. I get messages of people saying, you're banned on Facebook. You deserve to be shot in the head because you're dangerous. So they're inciting violence against my life by labeling me dangerous and by saying that I'm more dangerous than ISIS and the KKK, because ISIS, KKK, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, they're all allowed to have accounts, but I'm too dangerous. I would love to know what I've done that makes me so dangerous compared to ISIS. I've never committed a violent crime in my life,
Well, so look, what is the partisan makeup of the FEC, and have you been able to talk to them about this?
So the FEC, a lot of people don't know this because our media institutions don't even, report the news anymore, and I don't even know what the parties do anymore. Look, there's do nothing Democrats, but there's also do nothing Republicans. Let's be honest. It takes two to tango, and we wouldn't be in this mess if Republicans actually got their stuff together and did something. So this has been going on for years now. I mean, how many years have we been talking about the big tech social media censorship? Course, yeah. What do we elect these people to do all day if they're not going to address it? It's literally why I had to run for Congress, because I realized that this was going to get so bad that what's happened to me as patient zero was going to start happening to everybody unless something was done about it. And it's not just Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, okay? I've been banned from PayPal, GoFundMe, Venmo, Cash App, and even Chase Bank shut down my online access to my bank account because I was a high-profile Trump supporter. And people will say, oh, that's just a conspiracy theory. No, you can look it up. There was a big scandal where Chase Bank shut down several of the accounts of high-profile Trump supporters and activists, and even Project Veritas did an expose to confirm it when I gave them, when I called. I used to work there, of course, so I called James O'Keefe up, and I'm like, you should look into this. This is happening, and they did. They did an investigation. So imagine a world where your bank account sends you a letter or a message that says, sorry, we're closing your account because, we just don't like you. And that's what they caught him on camera doing. Chase Bank employees said, yeah, well, we were told from management that we weren't allowed to give bank accounts to people who lack morality or whatever that means. So who gets to be the decider of what is, good morals or morality, right?
But you've made many statements that that you would clearly admit are controversial, that have astounded a lot of people about Islamic immigration and Muslims, right? Do you feel that if you had made comparable statements about Jewish people or Black people, you'd be treated differently?
No, because everything I said was true, and I didn't say anything wrong. Because people are ignorant and haven't read the Quran like I have, and they don't have an extensive understanding of counterterrorism and, the threat of the global, the global Islamic terror threat, doesn't mean that I'm wrong. Okay. Their lack of knowledge doesn't make me a racist. It doesn't make me a hater. Islam isn't even a race, right? So look, I mean, if people actually wanted to have an open, honest dialogue about Islam as an ideology, okay, they'd quickly realize that everything I said was right. But people are not really interested in facts, as we've seen. They're more interested in, trying to tell us that the hijab is a fashion accessory and that, we should embrace female genital mutilation in our society because, diversity is welcome here. I mean, it's all of these things that are completely incompatible with Western civilization and the United States Constitution, and I'm talking about Sharia law, of course, are being forced on us by our new resident Jihadi members of Congress, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, okay? You saw it with the change of rules. And there really isn't an equal standard for Jews or Christians in this country. And a perfect example is how, we've had Jews serving in Congress for a long time, right? But they never made an exemption for them to wear their yarmulkes in Congress. But Ilhan Omar comes along with a hijab, and all of a sudden we have to change our longstanding rules to accommodate the first Muslim woman elected, right? So why is it that there seems to be better treatment and more privilege for Muslims in our country than for Jews, who would also love to wear, their religious head coverings? But you don't really see those those rule changes being made for Jews. You know, we're constantly told that, well, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, right? They're constantly crying victimhood and crying about their perceived sense of victimhood and discrimination. Yet, I'm sure you saw the story in the New York Post yesterday about how AOC has been refusing to meet with Jewish leaders, right? So they get to discriminate against Jews and say, we're not going to meet with you because you're Jewish. But, you know, could you imagine? Could you imagine if a member of Congress told a Muslim, oh, I'm not going to meet with you because you're Muslim? Why are there two sets of rules in this country?
What has been your opponent, Lois Franklin? She's the incumbent. She's Jewish, but you've been hitting her very hard on actions that can be perceived as anti-Semitism. I saw this ad where you were talking about how her support of Black Lives Matter is empowering anti-Semitism. Can you talk about that and what you mean by that?
Yeah, so everything, like I was talking about with the term hate speech, everything that the Democrats do and the radical left do is just a manipulation of semantics, okay? Hate speech. Let's convince people that certain speech is hateful and that it's illegal, right? There's probably a segment of society that thinks that hate speech is illegal or that there is hate speech in this country, even though it's a made-up term for the sake of spewing leftist propaganda. Doesn't exist, not real, completely made up, okay? Just like Black Lives Matter, it's a manipulation of semantics. Let's come up with a name of an organization that you can't oppose when first hearing the name, because if you do, you're going to look like a racist. Nobody ever said that Black Lives didn't matter, but if you call an organization Black Lives Matter and you oppose it, you're going to create an uncomfortable situation for yourself because people are going to think you're a racist or that you're some type of hater. But really, Black Lives Matter isn't about Black lives at all. A lot of the organizers, okay, they're self-admitted trained Marxists. A lot of the leadership and the executives in Black Lives Matter, they're actually white people, so they don't even practice what they preach about elevating Black people in society. And along with being a Marxist organization, they're a jihadist organization that has alignment with Palestinian resistance terror groups. And there's a lot of threads on Twitter that exist showing Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and Palestinian terrorists communicating, talking about how they can make Molotov cocktails and different riot tactics so that they can attack police officers. And so another element of the Black Lives Matter charter that, you know, people are now trying to cover up because it's starting to get a lot more attention thanks to my political ad, is the fact that Black Lives Matter is an inherently anti-Zionist, anti-Jewish organization. They don't even mention Israel in their 2020 platform because they don't think Israel has a right to exist, okay? And if you trace the funding to Black Lives Matter, you see that there's definitely crossover between funding for Hamas and Black Lives Matter. So they are a Marxist jihadist organization. And CAIR, the Council on American Islamic Relations, which is a designated terrorist organization, they like to call themselves like the largest Muslim civil rights organization in America, even though they're a terrorist organization. They privately lobbied Twitter to ban me simply because I was exposing things like this and they don't want people knowing about it. There's photos online that show that the Black Lives Matter propaganda that's being distributed in leaflets, it has a CAIR logo on it. So the Islamic terrorist organizations in America that bill themselves as like progressive activist groups, they're paying for this. A lot of them are. They're bankrolling it.
Hey guys, want to tell you about Amigo. If you go to myomigo.com, myomigo.com, and use /welcome, you get 15% off. What is it? Amigo delivers incredible bidets right to your front door. This is the kind of thing where people don't like to talk about it, and then you do it, and then it's like, oh, I've been missing this for a long time. If you go to myomigo.com /welcome, you get 15% off. No one likes talking about this. Trust me, this is the kind of stuff that changes your life, and you don't know how to tell people because you're like, I'm a lot happier with my daily experience, but if I talk about this, it's kind of crappy and gross. Well, it's the opposite of crappy and gross. It's clean and wonderful. And if you go to myomigo.com /welcome, you'll even get 15% off your bidet, and it's really easy to install. Let's get back to the show. What has your relationship been like with your opponent? Have you met her? Are you going to debate her? Is she pretending you don't exist? Is she running ads against you?
Also, one last thing too,
sure.
just because I saw that when I put this ad out, Lois Franklin and groups like the ADL, which, should be disbanded as far as I'm concerned. It's a, joke of an organization. They call themselves the Antidefamation League, but what they do is they spend their time defaming good Jews like myself while propping up self-hating Jews like my opponent and attacking me for doing the job that they get paid $50 million a year to do, which is exposing anti-Semitism. And they want to attack me for being anti-Muslim, for simply raising the alarm or sounding the alarm on the fact that BLM is a jihadist organization. And I'm trying to say that history repeats itself. And there's a video of Nihad Awad, who is the head of CARE. And mind you, it's a terrorist organization. Like, people need to drill this into their mind. Okay, we had the Holy Land Foundation terrorism trial in this country, our nation's largest terror financing trial in U.S. history, that found ample evidence that CARE is basically the Muslim Brotherhood branch in America, and they are Hamas. They're founding members. Some of them have been convicted of terrorism for supporting Hamas, and this is not even up for discussion. I mean, we have the federal court documents and the federal judges' rulings that show that this is a terrorist organization. Okay, Nihad Awad was speaking at a conference where he was addressing members of the convention, all sympathizers with Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. And he said that Muslims need to support Black Lives Matter because Black Lives Matter is our movement. That's what he said. So if Black Lives Matter is the movement of an Islamic terrorist organization, do you think that Black Lives Matter has any place in our society? I don't.
Well,
it's a domestic terrorist organization.
Well, what is your relationship though with Lois Franklin, and how's that been going? Like, is she ignoring you? Is she running ads against you? How serious? If you've, I saw the numbers. You did outraise her.
Yeah, I've outraised her. So Lois Franklin basically said that I don't deserve to have a platform, and that her strategy is to not say my name. So she refuses to refer to me by my name. She refers to me as like lunatic or some woman banned on social media, because she doesn't think that I deserve to exist as a person or as a candidate, even though I've won my nomination. And these are her own words. You can look it up in the paper. She said this because banned on social media. So apparently my personhood and my nomination isn't legitimate in her eyes because I'm banned on Twitter. But despite the fact that the voters voted for me.
Who's buying more ads? Are you both running ads on TV? How is she running ads if she's not mentioning you?
She's not mentioning me. She's just mentioning herself and how much she hates President Trump.
Okay, but you're running ads that are attacking her. Are those ads
we don't have any ads on TV right now. I mean, there's PACs that have ads that are running, but they're not my campaign ads.
Your campaign ads then are what, social media driven?
I have ads that are online, digital ads.
Okay. So
they're online. Yeah. They're not on Facebook, of course, because Facebook won't allow me to run ads, but they're on YouTube, and they pop up on the different news publications in the district.
How are you capable of campaigning? I'm assuming the 21st district in Florida is disproportionately elderly. COVID is no joke. People are taking this seriously, especially when you're at advanced age. How are you able to literally campaign?
We're in phase 3 here in Florida. So Governor DeSantis has reopened the state, and his executive order trumps, for lack of a better word, these draconian Democrat mandates that are completely unconstitutional here in Palm Beach County, like the mandates to force everybody to wear a mask, right? Or to have curfew. The governor's rule is substantially more powerful than these Democrat commissioners who get off on being little mini authoritarians. So, look, we are campaigning. We're running a full campaign. We're door knocking. My volunteers bring masks with them. So far, we really don't have complaints. We knock on people's doors. They're happy to see people out. People are sick and tired of wearing masks. They're sick and tired of being locked inside their homes. They want their country to reopen. A lot of them have lost their jobs to their home. I'm not in favor of keeping people locked inside simply because of a virus. Yes, it's deadly, but a lot of things are deadly. Pneumonia is deadly. The flu is deadly. And it's not the rate of infection that matters. It's the death rate. And the death rate is substantially lower. It's on the decline. And so I don't think that it's smart to completely tank the global economy and ruin people's livelihoods and destroy their businesses, for a virus. Medical scientists and doctors know that if you want to reduce the rate of infection, you quarantine the sick, not the healthy. So if people want to stay home, like we have free will in this country. Okay. This is a free country. You do what you want. You want to stay home, you stay home. You want to wear a mask, but don't go crazy on me in the grocery store. Don't try to ruin someone's business or ruin their livelihood, or, try to make someone's day miserable because they're not wearing a mask and they're not staying home.
Well, maybe they're just Loomering you, right? If they go up to you and start yelling in your face, like, how does it feel, Laura? How does it feel? Well, some of the things that you were famous for was chaining yourself to Twitter's headquarters here in New York. You also crashed Nancy Pelosi's house. If Lois Franklin is refusing to even mention your name, are you tempted to go to her house and knock on the door?
I'm more focused on talking to voters here in the district. Honestly, we knock on over 800 doors each day here in the district.
Okay,
and so I am more interested in knocking on the doors of constituents and the many Democrats who live in this district. And, they're not seeing Lois Franklin. Lois Franklin isn't knocking on their door. And yeah, there are a lot of Democrats in this district, but a lot of them are voting for me, and a lot of independents are voting for me. And, they appreciate the fact that I'm taking the time out of my day to come and talk to them and ask them for their vote. Lois Franklin isn't doing that. And so if Lazy Lois Franklin doesn't want to debate me, and Lazy Lois Franklin wants to refer to me as some woman banned on social media, that's okay, because on November 3rd, that some woman banned on social media is probably going to be getting a concession call from her, right? Because I'm going to unseat her. And then she'll be able to stay on her couch in West Palm Beach inside her home as long as she wants, because she'll be permanently retired.
What issues that you are pushing forward are resonating the most with voters in your district?
So according to my campaign's internal polling, law and order is the #1 most important issue for people here in the district. And then that's followed up, of course, by healthcare and the economy. A lot of those issues are intertwined, as we're seeing right now. People are concerned in terms of their health care because, well, we have this virus right now and people are nervous about their health. But also with law and order, it's tied into health care because these mandates are being forced upon people because, the Democrats have been saying that the rates of infection are increasing. And at the same time, right, they are not holding accountable the rioters and the Antifa and Black Lives Matter domestic terrorists who they've been enabling to go and riot in places like West Palm Beach, and District 21 that has a large elderly population, okay? And then, they're saying a few days later, oh my God, COVID is spiking. Well, why do you think COVID is spiking? You had Lois Franklin on Twitter thanking the rioters and saying that they were peaceful when they were calling for cops to be killed and burning down businesses on Clematis Street and shutting down traffic. That's peaceful? And I can't go to a grocery store without wearing a mask, but Antifa is able to go burn down Best Buy, and that's okay? According to Lois Franklin, that's okay. She's been a champion for Black Lives Matter and for these Antifa terrorists who have been, terrorizing people in the community. And then people will say, oh, no, there's no riots here in the district. No, there are. It's just the media does the bidding for the Democrats here. And, of course, you're not going to be exposed for supporting rioters and protest movements that put people in danger when the media is doing your bidding for you. Lois Franklin also supported the mayor of West Palm Beach, who during the lockdowns illegally banned guns. He issued an emergency order that banned the sale of guns, banned the sale of ammunition, illegally stripping the residents of District 21 of their Second Amendment right. And Lois Franklin had no problem with this. In fact, just the other day, she had a press conference with the mayor in which she was encouraging people to vote by mail. So, law and order, healthcare, and the economy. People's businesses have been destroyed. It's really sad, driving around Palm Beach, seeing all the closed signs or, the empty windows because a lot of businesses are failing. And, if I was the congresswoman right now, I would not be supporting these mandates to have curfews or to keep businesses shut down. People need to get back to work, okay? Schools need to open. School is a form of childcare. And, you know, people like Lois Franklin, she's so entitled and so uppity with her six-figure salary as a member of Congress that she seems to think that your average person in the district can just go pay for a private nanny, you know? What do people do if they're single parents or if both parents work and they have small children? Small children need help if they're going to be doing these Zoom classes. And I also find it disgusting on a tech side that these Democrats are trying to advocate for children and also for, for themselves to be carrying out their meetings on Zoom, which is Chinese technology. And I know, that a lot of people are using it, but I would advise people to not use Zoom because even the United States Senate has banned its members from using Zoom because it's a national security threat. So I don't really feel comfortable with, politicians who are completely ignorant to foreign interference in our tech, or maybe she doesn't care because she has no problem with tech interfering in the own election taking place in her own district. But our children should not be subjected to that. We're just allowing for China to have more control over us. Oh, and another thing too that I'm really big on is making Social Security tax-free. And so that's an issue that's resonating a lot with the seniors here. And of course, my district is the number one most Jewish district in the country. So anti-Semitism and combating, the members of the squad and all of these jihadists and Marxists who are spewing Jew hatred on a daily basis. That's something that's really resonating because 25% of my district is Jewish. And it's the first time in U.S. history where a Republican Jewish woman is up against a Democrat Jewish woman. And when I win my race, I'll be the youngest woman ever elected to the United States Congress, which is a victory for women, Republicans, and Jews.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about one of my absolute favorite sponsors, sheathunderwear.com. If you go to sheathunderwear.com and use promo code Malice20, you get 20% off your order and you'll get into my underwear. Because Sheath is boxer briefs made out of moisture-wicking technology. They keep everything cool, calm, and in place. And the unique thing about Sheath is they have dual pouches to keep your body parts separated. So if you're in the heat, if you're running, if you're at the gym, it's nice and relaxing. Comfort and support. If you go to sheathunderwear.com and use promo code Malice20, you get a pair of the most comfortable underwear you'll ever own. And I got to tell you, it makes your glutes look really good. And it makes sure parts of you aren't sticking to other parts about you. You know what I'm saying? This is great for being in hot environments. If you're going to be in the fall, going pumpkin picking, you want your Sheath. If you go to sheathunderwear.com, promo code Malice20, 20% off your order. You'll be in my pants. Let's get back to the show. I'm curious what you thought of the debate last week between President Trump and Joe Biden. One of the things that you were very known for is when Jack Dorsey was testifying, I believe, in the House, you were in the audience and you got up and you were yelling all these questions at him, and then you had to be escorted out. Were you President Trump's debate coach?
No, but I'll be his congresswoman, and I can't wait to win because, President Trump will be my constituent come November 3rd, and it's going to be great. It's going to be great being able to refer to President Trump as my constituent on the floor of the House of Representatives. But
what did you think of his debate performance? Because it was something that seems like it was very much in your style in many ways.
Well, President Trump had to debate two people. He had to debate Chris Wallace and he had to debate Joe Biden. And so I think it's interesting how people are talking about President Trump interrupting, but Chris Wallace is probably the worst moderator I've ever seen in my life. He was doing interference for Joe Biden, who we all know has Alzheimer's, and he was interrupting the president constantly. He was not allowing President Trump to give statements and as a form of rebuttal to Joe Biden when he would say things. He allowed for Joe Biden to say, to tell the president of the United States to shut up. I mean, there's absolutely no decorum whatsoever. And I know I'm not exactly known for being, a champion of decorum, but I also think that it's incredibly unfair for President Trump to, be the only one attacked when it was very obvious that he had to debate two people, not just one.
One of the other things that you were known for is crashing Nancy Pelosi's house and filming it with a bunch of people who are immigrants. Have you heard anything from her or from the Democratic Party establishment regarding your campaign?
Yeah, it's great, right? What is Nancy Pelosi deported me from her house in Napa Valley, but she's not going to be able to deport me from the house in D.C., is she?
I guess not. Have they released this?
I'm going to have a permanent sanctuary in her house.
Has the Democratic Party establishment acknowledged your race at all?
Yeah, so they have the DCCC, who Lois Franklin gave $100,000 to, so that they could do her dirty work for her, so that she could continue to refer to me as some woman banned on social media. They actually published a press release, and they accused me of being a member of the KKK. So yeah, I know it sounds really crazy. I guess I don't tell my rabbi, Michael. Whatever you do, just don't tell my rabbi. You know, I think I left my white cloak at the synagogue, so I'm gonna have to go pick that up after this interview. But you know, they accused me of being a member of the KKK, so they're so dishonest. And they also said that I was a white supremacist. They said I was a neo-Nazi. They're just spewing lies about me. That's what they do. They call everybody who they disagree with a Nazi, and now they're accusing me of being in the KKK. And Joe Biden's campaign actually issued a statement about me. So when President Trump endorsed me and tweeted his support of me on election night when I won, Joe Biden's campaign gave CNN a statement, and they were like, oh, well, you know, it's so egregious. You can look it up. I forget the exact wording of it. But we've actually prompted responses from you know, all the major leftist you know, pundits, the DCCC. Ayanna Pressley said that I should be expelled from Congress on day one. So they're already planning on banning me from Congress on my first day in Congress.
That must have been very gratifying to see the president tweeting his support of you.
Yeah, it's great. You know, it's exciting, of course, but look, I'm working hard, and a lot of people, they think it's a joke for some reason, but this is not a joke. I am determined to get to Congress to be the one to actually do something about tech censorship and tech tyranny, along with other things as well. But that was my inspiration for running for Congress, because I'm telling you, it's been awful what I've had to be subjected to over the last 2.5 or 3 years of my life. It's awful what they have done to me. You know, they've sent Islamic terrorists after me. They destroyed my livelihood. They've tried to defame me and ruin my reputation. And it's a civil rights violation, debanking me, right? Banning me from my bank account, freezing my money. I don't want any other American citizen to have to deal with what I've dealt with. It's awful. And it should be illegal. And the fact that I have not received adequate representation or help from the media or members of Congress regarding this matter, it's disgusting. And I don't want people out there who are being subjected to this to feel like they're alone. And when I get to Congress, I am going to be Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg and Sundar Pichai's worst nightmare. And I am going to force the change that needs to happen in this country with regards to taking down these companies.
Have any of the anchors from CNN, MSNBC, or Fox reached out to you or tried to get you for interviews?
No, Jake Tapper prefers, you know, calling me a Nazi on air. He won't have me on. There was actually a booker, funny story, this guy I know who does media booking, and he reached out to CNN, and, you know, they asked if I could go on to, or if they'd be interested in having me on, right? Someone not affiliated with my campaign.
Sure.
And I guess the booker said, quote, that bitch isn't even allowed in the building. Probably because I used to work for Project Veritas, and we all know what happened last time, you know, a Veritas employee was allowed inside CNN headquarters. But yeah, Fox News has blacklisted me. I'm not allowed to go on. They've told the major hosts who want to have me on that I'm not allowed to go on. They refuse to, you know, talk about this issue and the election interference. So, you know, it's like the same babble every single night about tech censorship and, oh my God, they're censoring the president, and oh my God, what are we going to do about all this censorship of conservatives? But, you know, what are you doing? You know, you have a Republican candidate who's literally not even allowed to have access. If they really wanted to address this or talk about it, why don't you have me on? But they won't let me on because I'm on the blacklist. And the head of Fox, her name's Suzanne Scott. I think you've had some interactions with Suzanne, but Suzanne doesn't allow for certain people to come on, and I'm one of those people. And so when people like Jeanine Pirro or Sean Hannity or, you know, Pete Hegseth or some of these other Fox News personalities have requested to have me on, Suzanne Scott says no because Laura Loomer's on the blacklist. And that's something that needs to be exposed, because Fox News can't be grifting off their audience, pretending to be so outraged about censorship when they are enforcing censorship themselves, right?
Given all these things that are said about you in the press, what sort of pushback? And elderly people are going to be blue-pilled, and if you only hear one side of an issue, you're going to tend to believe it's true, especially if it's the local paper you've been reading for decades. What sort of pushback have you been getting from the voters, and how have you been addressing it?
Well, we've had to really just go door to door to talk to voters because, there's no debates, okay? The media refuses to talk about me fairly. They won't run my press releases. There's a blackout on me in the press. They won't talk about my campaign. And so really, I've just been talking to people, and if they have concerns, a lot of the times it's just about some of the things people have said about me, which is, understandable because my entire Wikipedia page makes me look like I'm some neo-Nazi, and we've tried to fix my Wikipedia page, but they won't allow me to. So the way Wikipedia works is it's owned by this radical leftist, and they allow for left-wing activist groups to go in and change your Wikipedia page. So I had actually tried hiring somebody to fix my Wikipedia and address the lies. And when they did it, less than 24 hours later, Wikipedia had returned it back to what it said about me before. And so it's unfortunate that that's the first thing that pops up when people Google my name with a photo that doesn't even look like me. And then they just see all these lies about me. So I'm not even given an opportunity to even, fairly state my case because I'm, being subjected to election interference, election tampering from the party that supposedly hijacked our news cycle for 4 years to tell us about how awful election interference was. I don't know.
Laura, we're running out of time. What has been your favorite part of this interview?
Well, I appreciate you, actually allowing me to voice my side of the story and to talk about my campaign because I think I can count on 5 fingers the amount of times that's been allotted to me throughout my campaign because people are really hell-bent on suppressing my voice and not really allowing me to talk about my campaign. So I just appreciate the opportunity.
You are welcome.